Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of, and like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continued long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast.
Listeners, today we are so excited to bring you this conversation with the Senator Janet Petersen. You've heard us talk about her so much in season 1, also in season 2. Senator Petersen is a passionate advocate for children and families. She is currently serving in the Iowa Senate after serving 6 terms in the Iowa House of Representatives. In 2017, she served as chairwoman of the Midwest Legislative Conference for the Council of State Governments, where she brought a bipartisan group of more than 500 legislators from 11 Midwestern states and 4 Canadian provinces to her hometown of Des Moines to learn about issues facing the Midwest and work together on policy solutions. Janet is the first Iowa woman elected to serve as the Senate Democratic leader. This is just a little bit of what Senator Petersen has accomplished and worked for in her career of over 20 years of public service. In addition to getting things done as a legislator, she co-founded a nonprofit called Healthy Birthday that provides education and advocacy to prevent stillbirth. And she loves a game of pool. Welcome to the show, Senator Janet Petersen.
Yes, I am very excited that we have you on today, Janet. We're very excited because you come up all the time. You came up
all the time
in a good way. Like,
yes.
We were interviewing somebody yesterday and your name came up, and I just feel like your name gets thrown around a lot within this community, especially people who have an Iowa connection, you know?
Yeah.
Because you have been, focusing on the subject for such a long time. So kicking off with that subject is, as much as you are comfortable sharing, what led you to run for office, which I do think is interesting because I know for myself, it sounds intimidating as shit. So what gave you the chutzpah to run for office?
Well, I kind of was exposed to politics and public policy from a really young age. Because my mom is my inspiration. She and my dad met in Brooklyn, Iowa as school teachers, and they kind of continued their careers as school teachers. And then my dad got recruited to come work in Des Moines at Pioneer as an agronomist. And shortly after my family moved here, they were pregnant with me at the time. My dad got diagnosed with cancer, and 5 weeks later he passed away from melanoma. And my mom at the time was a single parent looking for work, and the pastor at our church said there's a group of churches that are getting together to do social justice work, and they're looking for somebody to be a lobbyist. And my mom, her town that she grew up in was really small, like 600 people. She was youngest of 10. I don't even think she really knew what a lobbyist was, but she needed a paycheck. And so she started working with this coalition of churches doing social justice work at the State House. And I was in preschool at the time. And so I just grew up seeing the good side of government and how it can actually really help people when you pass policies that impact people's daily lives. So I've always been intrigued with public policy. And in my 20s, my boyfriend at the time and I had several of our friends leaving Iowa for other parts of the country and what they thought were better opportunities. And I thought, if we want to make changes, you need to have people sitting around the table that have ideas. I think I'm going to run for office. So the legislator from my district had just decided to run for the Senate, and he said there was an open seat, and I decided to throw my name in. And I don't know that anybody thought I was going to win, because at the time I was 29 and I looked like I was 12. And I was out door knocking, and people said, "You don't even look old enough to vote." But I won my primary, which was the main race. And then I've been serving ever since. At the time, I was a second youngest woman ever elected to the legislature in Iowa. Now I'm happy to say we have a lot more women that are running at younger ages. Yeah, I officially started running in 1999, and,
Holy macaroni.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. So you've
So,
been serving for some time.
I have,
Yeah.
yeah. So my first year in office was 2000
Wow.
or 2001, 2001.
It's good for people to hear because I think it can sound so intimidating and so like like impossible, and then you hear like other people have been doing this and you were just a regular person that like decided to go do this thing, and now it's been 20 some 27 years of your life or something.
Yeah.
um yeah, and I'm sure it hasn't well, maybe I shouldn't put words in your mouth. Has it felt like 27 years?
Maybe the last 10 have been pretty hard, but it's gone
Oof.
fast too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder what came about in the last 10 years. Who came
What could
about?
have
Who entered the
possibly
picture?
caused that sensation for you? And then, within that time period, we're talking 27 years that you've been in office. What led you to spend so much time focusing on Iowa's statute of limitation laws? So, for our listeners, as I'm sure they well know because I flap my gums about it all the time, Janet is a great supporter for trying to update Iowa's statute of limitation laws for civil cases. But yeah, can you share with our listeners like what led you to that as like a personal passion point to try to make some change in Iowa?
Well, it started with a constituent who came to me, and he had been raised by a single mom who encouraged him to join a church youth group, because she wanted him to, build connections and have positive role models in his life. And that ended up being an experience where he was sexually abused, as were other boys in the youth group. And he came to me and asked for help. I stayed in touch with him kind of on and off because it's just really difficult
Mm.
to see something that should change quickly. And it's been a long slog trying to get the law changed. But I have met so many survivors through the work that I've just continued to keep going because we've just got to get it done for people. And I think back to that original conversation, that could have easily been me. And he was roughly the same age as me. Some of the boys that were involved in that youth group took their own lives. It's just horrendous. I can't remember if he even ever told his mom. And so I think when people have the courage to step forward and ask for help, I mean, that's our job, is to try and make things better. And I look at just how often I read in the paper about how frequently it occurs and how bad our laws are, that it shouldn't be happening this often. And if we could just get our laws changed, we could do so much to protect our children and just change. I think it's one of the biggest public health crises facing our country.
Yeah.
And if we could get better laws in place, we could protect a lot more children and also help heal a lot of help a lot of survivors have a better opportunity to heal, because we would quit silencing something and having them carry the burden on themselves that no one should have to carry that burden alone.
In your opinion, is there any value? Like, what is the point of a statute of limitation laws? Like, I guess specifically as it relates to sexual abuse or assault, like, we're trying to be balanced here. Is there any like good sides to having a statute of limitation, or survivors and other people, other women who are mad about this issue? You hear a lot of like, they're pointless, they're so ridiculous, fuck statute of limitation laws, we shouldn't have them. And, a lot of that I'm sure is fueled by rage. But have you, in your 27 years of experience, like, do you see any value or any kind of reason why we should have statute of limitation laws when it comes to abuse?
No, there's no reason to have a statute of limitations. Basically, what it does is it protects perpetrators and it protects organizations that have systematically covered up abuse. It allows them to use the clock to protect themselves and also, just allow for more harm in our society. There is no positive reason unless you are a perpetrator or somebody who knows that you've done wrong by kids.
I always use the example, there's no statute of limitation on murder. And I
Right.
think anybody who's listening that has ever experienced abuse or assault of any kind understand like the true price, of that experience for the survivor. Like to your point, some of the young men in that camp, that your constituent was a part of, like didn't survive, right? They lost
Yep.
their lives because of what happened to them. So, yeah, it's nice to hear that you don't think there's a reason, because Diana and I are always like, what the fuck? Like, this shouldn't be a
Yeah.
thing. But, sometimes it's like, we talk to Faith a lot too about that, just the idea of like, it's easy for us to say it shouldn't be this, it should be that. But sometimes things are more complicated than that. But I do feel like statute of limitations isn't, you know what I mean? Like, it isn't a nuanced thing. It just
Well,
protects the bad guys.
yeah, and the other thing it does as more and more states realize just how terrible it is, it puts our state that has a really tight timeline in a even more
Mhm.
dangerous position because we're seen as the state that is really more friendly to predators and institutions covering up crimes. So it creates a huge problem, and you two know that from your own experience that the borders of your state shouldn't dictate what your rights
Yeah.
are.
I think that was a huge motive of us ending up doing this podcast, was just the glaring differences between our rights as survivors in two different states. And even, even though Illinois has better laws, like I don't think would have done anything if
I
Iowa
don't
hadn't
think
moved
so.
first. Like it
They're
really
so
did not
bogged
feel like
down.
they're so bogged down because they're underfunded and they're understaffed. Like, it just goes to show like how all of this stuff is so dependent on your zip code. And that's
Yep.
bullshit.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Speaking of some bullshit, what has it been like navigating the Boy Scout settlement case here in Iowa? And by the bullshit part, I mean the fact that, the state allowed there to be, what is the word I'm looking for? An exclusion for survivors. And we've also talked about it on the podcast, but that Iowa did lift its statute of limitation for civil cases, but only for the survivors of the Boy Scouts. What was that like for you? Like, as somebody who's been like championing with this for so long, it had to have been such a mix of yay, but also what the hell are we doing? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, the issue of the Boy Scout group came to me from a Boy Scout survivor who wrote a letter to me asking for help. When the survivors realized because their abuse occurred within the borders of the state of Iowa, they would be getting pennies on the dollar compared to survivors of other states. Um, and I still had my piece of legislation in the legislature to fix the statute of limitations for everyone. And it once again was not moving through the legislative process. And there ended up being another Boy Scout survivor who was from a lawmaker's hometown, and he chaired the Appropriations Committee, Senator Cranebrink. And so I talked to him about, if you can't get the whole thing, should we try for the Boy Scouts? And knowing that they had a deadline, like an actual date that they had to have a kind of carve out for them. And so it's like one of those tricky things when you're in politics. Yes, I want it for everybody. If we weren't going to get it for everybody, do we use the Boy Scouts as another opportunity to educate more lawmakers about just
Mm-hmm.
how wrong our laws are? And so that's kind of the way I kind of framed it in my own head of we should just use this as an opportunity to try and educate more people. And the bill ended up passing through our chamber unanimously. And then we sent it to the House. And then the House put a sunset date on it and sent it back to us on the very last day for it to pass. It's one of those bills where you had to just plug your nose knowing that there shouldn't have been a sunset date on it. And we voted for it and passed it. And then this year, knowing that they're approaching their sunset date, the Senate again tried to fix it, passed it unanimously through the Senate, and then the Speaker of the House didn't even take the bill out of his office and assigned it to a subcommittee. So effectively, one person killed the Boy Scout bill by using their power. And we were able to change the statute of limitations for all children on civil through a human trafficking bill this year, but it still is nowhere near what it needs to be. And the Boy Scouts, I mean, it shouldn't be just the Boy Scouts, you know? I mean, you think of like how many kids have suffered abuse in all different types of scenarios, and everyone deserves the pathway to justice. And it shouldn't just be those that have gone into bankruptcy court that, you know, we take care of. It should be everyone.
So if I understand correctly, the Speaker of the House of Iowa, Grassley, I think, just chose to not assign it to committee, and that's it? Like, how is that allowed? I don't understand.
Well, I would consider it an abuse of the office. They have the power to do that, just as a committee chair or a subcommittee chair can get assigned a bill and then put it in their desk drawer and do nothing with it, which is what's happened to our civil statute of limitations bills, both those sponsored by Democrats and those sponsored by Republicans, that they've used the power of their chairmanship to not allow for subcommittees most of the time. There have been a couple of subcommittees, and then the chairman then didn't run the bill through the full committee. So you see them use their power to try to not even have the public conversation.
That's wild. That's awful.
It is awful.
What do you think is the problem? Like, why I guess for us, like, it always feels so like it obvious. Why would you not want to protect children? Why would you not want to, like, what do you think the political motives are for not acting on this or like blocking them? Because it,
especially with so much attention, you know, it's a big case.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's some dark forces at work, honestly. And I think there's some back channel lobbying. There are, you know, people within both chambers that don't want to see it come up. And it just floors me. And that's why I continue to keep pushing for it, because why would we want to silence survivors and have them carry that weight on them, and also put more kids at risk, or more Iowans at risk? Not to mention, you know, when you think about all of the mental health issues, substance abuse, maybe even like productivity, all the different things that it might impact in the survivor that could be prevented with such a simple fix.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more? So you said that the statute of limitation was updated with a human trafficking bill. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, we passed a bill. It was a human trafficking bill, and it does a couple of things. It increases the civil statute of limitations for kids for sexual abuse and human trafficking to the age of 23 from 19. So we're still among the worst. And in that bill, I also ran an amendment. I would like to have gotten rid of it completely, but I ran an amendment to change it to 50 years. And they weren't able to rule my amendment non-germane, which is the first time, you know, out of many attempts where I've gotten actually a floor vote on the bill and had every Democrat with me and only 3 Republicans. And so my amendment failed. But the bill did make its way to the governor's office, so it's now 23. And then the discovery rule that we have in Iowa changed from 4 years to 5 years.
Yeah. So how do you...
one extra year.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that was kind
It's
of one of my
something.
questions.
It's
So it's
something.
like, how do you, Janet Petersen, emotionally, mentally hold space for the idea of like progress is better than perfection, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't just like dig in. I mean, you could, but it would be dumb. You don't want to dig in and be like, well, if it's not for everyone, then the Boy Scouts don't get it. And if it's not 50 years, then we'll leave it at 4, or you know what I mean? Like how long did it take you to kind of make peace with the amount of compromising you have to do? Or was that something you were comfortable with very early on in your career?
Yeah, no, still haven't made peace with that. In fact, the those that were pushing for the human trafficking bill did not want me to put my amendment on it because they thought it might kill their work
Mm,
of getting it to 5 years, and but I think it's important for people to see who is with you and who's not in that amendment vote so you can see
mhm,
where do we need to be doing our education. Like, okay, we have 3 Republicans who bucked their party and voted with me. So,
mhm.
one has a survivor in his district who's very, very vocal. And I think, she probably would have raised some issues with him had she seen him not voting with me on that. And so, if you count up our votes, we're not that far away from getting it passed. So the more we can educate people on the importance on who's selected to be the majority leader, who's selected to be the leader of the judiciary committees. They're so powerful, those positions, and who's elected to the Senate president. Those are positions that decide whether or not issues can even come to the floor for debate or to
Yeah.
committee for debate.
I think that all adults should have to go back to social studies. I think we should all have to have a refresher course, right? Because we all learned this stuff in middle school, but
Yeah.
I feel like you
We
do
didn't care
forget
in
so
middle
much of
school.
it. You don't care. You don't understand the importance of laws. You're just like, whatever. I want to like go drink a PBR behind the school after school. But I think it's important because a lot of people aren't paying attention to any of those things, right? I mean, especially right now, so many people are tuning out with politics in general because it's overwhelming and there's just a lot of heavy shit going on. But
And every
I
state is a little bit different too. Some
yeah.
states every bill gets a subcommittee hearing, but it just depends from state to state. And so, yeah, there's a lot to learn on local politics all the way up.
Well, and I like what you said about, what got you interested in this subject was a community member reaching out. And what
Yeah.
got this Republican to, side with you was a survivor reaching out. So I think this is like a very good prompt to any listeners who are passionate about this subject and are capable of having those conversations. Obviously take care of yourselves, but be a squeaky wheel. Like reach out to your representative and ask them why they aren't supporting these bills. Now, they might not respond to you. They might ghost you, but you can just keep trying and keep contacting and calling and leaving voicemails and emailing over and over and over. If you get connected with the right person or if someone's willing to listen to you, I do think those human connections, it is how people learn, right? Because
Mhm.
otherwise it's just statistics and headlines and it's kind of in one ear out the other.
Yeah, I mean, I have learned so much from people who've reached out to me, and just even, beyond statute of limitations. I have an example of a survivor who reached out to me. Her dad is a police officer who had sexually abused her and her sister. When I learned just how weak our background check laws are, the survivors can really give lawmakers areas that we need to be spending more time looking into, like how are our licensing regulations? How are our background checks? Do we regulate overnight camps or do we regulate traveling sports teams? All of those
Mm.
issues that we might not know about if survivors maybe don't share things with us that we wouldn't have known otherwise.
In the last 27 years, you have obviously done so much more than just the statute of limitation focus. And I'm sure there are so many things that your constituents are reaching out to you about. Is there a suggestion you have for listeners about like what is the most effective way, at least, for you, I'm sure you can't speak for everybody, but for you, like what is the most effective way that someone could get your attention? Would that be like emailing over and over again? Would that be phone calls? Would that be trying to catch you at an event, a public speaking event? Like how can someone break through when, so many people and so many issues are competing for the attention of our legislators?
I really think reaching out with an email, sharing a story, asking to meet for coffee, that's probably the best way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, especially when lawmakers aren't in session and they're back in their districts, I mean, that's where you get the best ideas. It's your time to basically be doing your field trips and your research work. And I rarely turn down a chance to meet with a constituent or have a phone conversation if they want to talk about an issue. And um, not always is it an issue that I can help push for, but like I had an example of a dad that I met with at Panera. He told me what had happened to his family. We drafted a bill sitting at Panera, and I
Wow.
sent it in right there. We
Oh
like
my.
send it into the bill drafter. So it can happen pretty quickly, but you have to ask.
Yeah,
But
even
this
just
is why
hearing you
Janet Peterson
say,
is the best.
yes, I was going to say, even just like hearing you say, and I know not everyone is like you. My best friend, she did outreach to legislators for her job, and she was saying in like Kentucky, it's impossible to get in touch with anybody. And so like I know
Oh,
not everyone is like you, but for me, just hearing like you, a legislator of many years, saying I will have coffee with my constituents, like that just makes me feel more comfortable. And I think we talked about this in yesterday's recording, Sarah, of like, they work for us, like they should listen to us, but not all
Mhm.
of them make themselves as accessible as you do. Thank you for that. That's very
I'd I'd
helpful.
also say if you have a legislator that is not helpful, I a lot of people have found me by just typing in the subject and looking for news articles to see which lawmakers are working on that issue, and then
Mm.
try someone from a different district. Because if it's a passion area for them, they're not going to care really where you're from. And Zoom is super easy too.
Case in point, yes, I'm not in your district, Janet. Like but you've been an awesome resource for me and for Diana as well, just helping us kind of navigate, our own experience, but then moving forward with kind of navigating, okay, what can we do now that we've learned all this stuff, and what can we use our voices for to kind of move the needle in the right direction. But yeah, I think it is very refreshing, and that's one of the things I've enjoyed about like getting to know you and getting to work with you, is that like it is such an easy time to feel like disenfranchised and like not trusting of the government and just like bitter and like boo about everything. And so it is really cool to be able to work with somebody that's like, you are accessible, you care about talking to people and listening, and then actually doing something with those experiences. Where do you feel like we have made progress in regards to victim rights and justice in Iowa? And where do you feel like we still need to improve? Like if you had like a top tier list, right, of like things you're really proud that we have changed, and things that you're really like, for the love of God, we have to get this done.
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud that we got rid of the criminal statute of limitations
Mm-hmm.
completely. And that was through bipartisan work with somebody who's probably polar opposite of me politically. So I'm really proud that, like, the two of us were able to get that accomplished. Even just making a small stride on the civil statute of limitations. Sarah, you opened the door for licensing areas to realize that our statute of limitations within licensing causes real problems for the safety of Iowans. So making more fixes on licensure. There's a huge kind of national movement to allow people who are licensed in one state to move to another state more easily without having to go through hoops. But we need to make sure that if one state has licensing that doesn't do appropriate background checks, or,
Mm-hmm.
or has different statute of limitations, we don't want to be setting ourselves up to have something bad go wrong with that. I still think there's a lot of work we need to be doing for unregulated camps and sporting type
Mm-hmm.
of issues. The child sex abuse within our child welfare system is troubling, extremely troubling for me. There's been more than 100 founded cases of child sexual abuse in foster and adoptive care in Iowa within the last, maybe it's founded abuse and sexual abuse, one or the other, within the past, 6 years. I mean, one
Wow.
case is too many. And so we are clearly missing issues on protecting our kids on that. We need to be doing more so that people can say their abuser's name and not have to worry about their own legal rights.
Yes.
And I think that's a big issue. We're seeing other states doing a better job of not having these secret settlement agreements, and trying to see if that might be something we need to pursue in Iowa, so that kids don't have to carry that burden after a settlement is reached. If a settlement is reached.
That is the most frustrating. Like, gag orders after settlements are such bullshit. Like, it is a rule that only protects the abuser or the perpetrator. Like, there is nothing about that benefits a survivor that they aren't able to talk about their experience. And same thing with kind of anti-slap laws. Like, I know some of those have been getting passed here, and I think California maybe passed, or did they pass an anti-slap law? Or maybe they were trying to. But again, that idea of like making it so somebody cannot come after you for naming them as your abuser, because that is a really big hurdle. I mean, we don't say our abuser's name on this podcast partially for that reason, right? Like, just concerned that,
well, and I legally can't.
She legally can't.
You can,
because of goddamn a gag order. You got exactly. Yes, you know what I mean? So like, this is the point. Like, like those things, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you won, or, oh, well, you got a settlement, or, oh, well, that person went to jail. So like, you got everything that you wanted, you got the best that you could. But there is a ripple effect of that, right? Like it does. You're still trying to keep someone silent who spent years being silent. And part of their healing is talking about it and having the freedom to speak the truth. And then to have it be like, oh, part of your justice is that we're going to re-gag you, is traumatic to survivors.
It is. It's re-traumatizing. And we also need to do more to eliminate body shame, and do more to educate kids about their bodies. And Iowa's got the rising cancer rate in the country. Mm-hmm. And the legislature, Republicans passed legislation that would not allow a child to get an HPV vaccination without parental consent, or schools to teach about the importance of HPV vaccinations. And
what? Why?
To me,
Diana, Iowa is a mess right now. Hot mess.
Yeah, how is HPV like? Oh God. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Because then it's like you're condoning your kid having sex. Like, it's getting. I'm not saying that, dear listeners. I'm not saying that, but I think that's the perception, right? Because it's the idea of like, you shouldn't be able to go get birth control without your parents being aware of it, and you shouldn't be able to get an abortion without your parents being aware of it. And the HPV vaccine, for some reason, because it's a STI related vaccine, is getting wrapped up into that, I think, in this idea of a teenager's ability to be sexual. And I think that's where the statute, or that's where the like age of consent drives me fucking crazy, because it's like, so you're telling me that at 16 you are mature enough to decide to have sex with a 50-year-old, or but I'm not mature enough to go get a vaccine. Both cannot be true.
So backwards. Yeah.
Both cannot be true. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Or the parent could be the perpetrator.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that more education on like your body and not having shame around it is necessary for kids. The Center for Violence Prevention Research just came out with a study that showed that 70% of sexual abuse in kids is from other kids. So, like it seems like, at least in Illinois, we have Aaron's Law, and we have education that is part of public education. Students have to get training on sexual abuse every year. And I think a lot of it is focused on abuse from adults, But I think the study is showing that kids need to like also be taught that abuse can happen between like each other, you know, between peer to
Mhm.
peer. And I think that's a hope, maybe like the next phase of sexual abuse prevention education for school age children is helping them see like, oh no, your friend who's the same age as you you could also they could also be someone who hurts you, and just because they're your friend doesn't, you know. So I think, yeah, I agree, that's very important, in educating kids about their bodies. No question, just a comment.
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
I support everything you've said.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
with you 100%.
I do think that information is I think will really adjust how a lot of us have to think about the subject. You know, to your point, Diana, like we do usually think of it as being adults or parents and uncles or coaches, and those things are true and those things happen. But the idea that it is a lot more kids abusing other kids is like a whole other bag of cats. You know what I mean? And like how do you protect, you know, people from that happening to them, and what's happening to the kids that are abusing the other kids, right? Like it's like so complicated, and I think it's going to be interesting in the next, like, you know, 10-20 years to see how that information and that perspective shift could kind of change the way that we're going about trying to prevent child sexual abuse.
And all
Again,
the
not a
the
question.
social media and all the technology and how that,
Mhm.
factors into kids' lives now. It's a lot.
And then you got AI and you got like deep fakes and all kinds of crazy things are happening. And yeah, like I think this conversation will probably unfortunately just get more and more complicated as time
Yeah,
goes as time goes by.
yeah.
But that's
um
also where the info is, you know, is the nuance. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I wanted to go back to the like gag orders. So I watched a new documentary called In Loco Parentis, which I learned means in place of a parent. I didn't know that before. In Loco Parentis, and it's about sexual abuse that happened, I think, at a school, private school in Connecticut. And in the documentary, they're talking about how like the insurance companies probably have the most data as far as like
Mm,
how many like accusations are made from like school teachers and employees and stuff like that, and that they pretty much invented the NDA, because it is like at the end of the day like a money issue. And it's so frustrating because it like in California, for example, Sarah, you brought up California, they paid billions in settlement money, which is probably more expensive than just investing in prevention. I think the one a legislator in California, it might have been, it wasn't the governor, someone in California sent out like a legislative alert or like a reminder or something to Los Angeles public schools about how like reporting isn't like it's necessary. It's not a public relations issue. Like it's a safety issue. People have to report and be trained in
mm,
how to report. And if not, like there are consequences, legal consequences.
I think we have a lot of problems in our reporting system right now. I think our mandatory reporter laws need to be addressed. And Sarah knows this, but just last year they changed our reporting of student abuse. And if you're reporting student abuse, it might not qualify as student abuse because Iowa's law is written in a way that it has to occur on school grounds or it has to occur during school hours. So
which
again,
is
someone,
crazy.
yeah,
Which is
so
like
like,
the number one things that are not going to happen. Like not
yeah,
impossible, but like
right.
most of the time teachers are not going to abuse their students on campus, and probably not during school hours, because guess what? There's people around.
Yeah. So I honestly feel like there probably are, like the way I look at our statistics, I think there are more people actually that are reporting. It's what happens when that information gets to the next level.
Mm,
And that's where I think we're really missing the boat more so than, I mean, I know there's probably people that do turn a blind eye, but I think part of the reason why is they look at what are they required to do and it's not a requirement. And
mm.
and so we need to address it on both sides. But I do think that they should be held accountable, if they see something and don't say something. But again, the system is so much of a mess that it needs to be addressed beyond that.
Well, and
Yeah.
I do think, unfortunately, money is what makes people care, right? And it's what makes districts or boards or whatever organizations actually kind of step up and do the right thing. It's not necessarily because they morally want to or think it's the right thing to do. Because I think a lot of the time, these organizations think this is a scandal, this is bad for us, we're going to lose money, so let's sweep it under the rug. The irony is, if you do that a bunch, you're going to end up paying so much more in the long run when it all comes out, you know what I mean? And you have like a class action suit or something come out against you, or nobody comes to your college anymore because there's this huge scandal. Like the piper always comes back. You know what I mean? Like it's going to come back and rip, get you at some point. I was just listening to something today that was talking about the idea of like, it's pretty much like using insurance to try to move progressive agenda, right? So instead of just like we're all upset and the world is a messy place, like try to make it like for like gun laws, say like you have to have insurance to own a gun because you have to have an insurance to have a car, right? Which could be a deadly weapon if you're not dealing with it correctly. So why don't we make people have to have insurance to have a gun? And then that way, if you have enough issues with the way that you're using the gun, you lose your insurance, just like you would lose your car insurance. And then
Why
you
isn't it
can't
like
drive
that?
a car anymore. I don't know. And it was a really good point. And it was like, because then they could just take your gun from you because you don't have gun insurance and you can't have your gun without a gun insurance.
It's a
And then
literal
they were
weapon.
saying, yes. And then they were saying, because then think about if there were shootings and the insurance companies had to pay out on these mass shootings, guess what they would do? They would start lobbying for more restrictive gun laws. And I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. Like, I was like,
I know, you're blowing my mind right now.
A pie in the sky idea, and it will probably never happen. But it's a really good idea. And so I was thinking about it in terms of like this subject matter too, right? Is like, is there a way to kind of think about the whole thing backwards, right? Like, is there a way to try to use the insurance system not only to benefit these giant, like school districts, right? Like if you have a lawsuit against a school district, it's their insurer that's paying that out, not necessarily the school district. But is there a way to kind of, I don't want to say weaponize, but is there a way to kind of use the insurance company system the other direction that could maybe move the needle? I don't know. I have no actual way of thinking about it, but I thought it was a really interesting idea.
It's a fascinating thought. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's also really logical when you think about it.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
But again, logic is not steering the political ship of America at this point.
Speaking of which, though, Senator Janet Petersen, you are going to restore the faith in all Americans listening to this podcast about democracy. What words do you have? No pressure. But as Sarah said, and there's so many statistics out there, especially like the younger generation, like there's so many people out there that are just disheartened, like disillusioned about politics in general right now. People who like just don't like either party, feel like both parties are doing something wrong and are just like disengaging with politics, which is really scary, right? Like we need people to be involved and paying attention. So what words would you have to say to the people listening about keeping the faith in American politics these days?
Well, I mean, I really do believe finding your people, maybe even outside of politics, that share common cause with you, is how building connection with others, I think, is probably the humanity of it all. I think that's what's going to help save us. Looking for people that you can connect with and feel like you can make an impact. Maybe if it's not politically, maybe it's just in your neighborhood, your community, your age group, whatever it is. Find just one thing that you can like hang on to and be with others, because I think being in community is what we all need.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I thank you for saying that because it's something I've really been thinking a lot about is like like me, I just feel so helpless sometimes listening to all the stuff that's going on. And, there's so many issues right now in the United States, but also globally, and it's hard sometimes to feel like you can do something or like it's hard sometimes to like even want to pay attention. And so something that
Mhm.
I have been thinking about is, well, okay, I'm not going to maybe be able to make much of a difference on my own on a national level, but I can in my community. Like I can see where I'm needed in my community. There's food pantries in the winter, there's a warming shelter. We have Planned Parenthood here, not that far away from me. So, I think that is a beautiful and important message for people to hear is you can just look where you're at. I'm not going to be the one to like change the Democratic Party or Republican Party, but like I can help in my community. So thank you for saying that.
There's not one fix all like solution to the problem, and there's criminal justice, there's restorative justice, there's all these camps, and I think that the dream world is that survivors would kind of have this buffet of options, right? And if talking about it is going to help you, that's great, do it. If talking about it makes it worse, then don't. Like that there would be a lot of opportunities because like what Diana and I are doing is not for everyone, right? Like having a podcast where you're talking about your abuse over and over or like casually while making weird jokes is not going to be everyone's coping mechanism, but it is for us. So yeah, I think it would be beautiful to have more options for survivors to kind of pick and choose how they want to move through the world after they suffer something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I outside of the legislature, I work in the maternal health space, and we kind of find that to deal a lot with pregnancy loss. And some people after losing a baby want to do advocacy. Some
Mhm.
just can't go there and want to focus on bereavement, or And this issue is of child sex abuse and sex violence, preventing sexual violence. There's just so many different directions you can go. And I think that if survivors can find whatever on ramp that they're comfortable with helping, that we just need everybody in whatever capacity works for
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
yeah, we agree. We're always telling people there's lots of ways to be helpful, and they're not all the big scary ways. There's a
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
grassroots things that you could be doing. Besides statute of limitations, besides child sexual abuse prevention and sexual assault prevention, is there anything else that you're working on that you would like to promote or that you would like to tell us about? Either historically within your career or something kind of moving forward that you're proud of working on.
Well, could I talk a little bit about my nonprofit? If I could do a
Please
little
Yes,
do.
please
self
do.
Please
promotion.
do.
Of course.
Um, in the early 2000s, my husband and I lost our second child, our daughter Grace. She would be 23 this year. And I lost her to a true knot in her umbilical cord when I was 9 months pregnant. And at the time, our doctors told us that stillbirth just rarely happens. And my husband and I learned otherwise, that it actually occurs way more frequently than anyone would ever want to believe. And I connected with other Des Moines area moms who had also lost baby girls roughly around the same time period. And so, since the early 2000s, we've been pushing on stillbirth prevention. We have a campaign called Count the Kicks that teaches expectant parents in their third trimester of pregnancy to put their hands on their tummy every day at about the same time and see how long it takes for their babies to hit or their baby to hit 10 movements, and start looking for your baby's normal movement pattern. And if they notice a change in their baby's movement, either up or down, it's just off, we urge them to contact their provider immediately, because it may be a warning sign that something is wrong with their baby, or even we're even now learning that it may be an indicator that something might be wrong with the mom's health.
Hmm.
And we've saved a lot of babies and a lot of moms throughout the country from our work. And our goal is to have every state in the United States take stillbirth prevention seriously, because we know it has a power to save lives. So
Janet
that's one of my big
Petersen.
passions.
Janet Petersen. But I do think that's like, first of all, so sorry that you
Yes.
experienced that. Like you've shared that story with me before in the past, but it's a powerful one. And I'm most of our listeners are women, and I'm sure many of them have experienced some kind of pregnancy loss in their life because it is very common. Even to your point, even if it's kind of told that it's rare, right? Like I had an ectopic pregnancy, and I remember the doctor being like, "Oh, it's so rare." I know like 10 women very directly close to me in my life that have experienced it. Like it's really not that rare, but I hadn't heard about it until it happened to me. And same thing with the stillbirth experience of, if no one's talking to you about trying to pay attention to your baby's movements, it's not even on your radar that that's something that you should be paying attention to. So I just think it's really powerful and impressive that you took such a traumatic, awful experience and chose to turn it into something that is going to have a positive impact on the world around you.
That has had a positive impact. You've
It's
saved
true.
so many
Yeah.
lives. And yeah, I pregnancy is not in my plans, but even so, like I've lived my life as a woman and never once have I even thought of like, oh yeah, like putting your hands on your belly and seeing the movements and keeping track of that, like that's just, there's so much that we're missing in prenatal care and pregnancy care and,
Mm-hmm.
maternal care. It's, yeah,
And
wow.
women's healthcare
And
and
women's
girls'
healthcare.
healthcare
Yes.
overall. Yeah.
Yes. It's like
Yep.
we're not half the population of the world.
It's like we don't give birth to every human that's alive.
I know. So weird. Seems like
Wild.
that might be important.
I'm so sorry. Did we miss
So
the name of your nonprofit? What is the name of your nonprofit?
The name of our nonprofit is called Healthy Birthday, and
Oh,
the fetal movement campaign is called Count the Kicks. And we have a free app, and I've lost track of how many different languages it's in. I think it's
oh
in like
wow.
26 languages now, but they can find it
amazing.
in whatever phone that they use. It's in their app store that they can download the free app, and it works for twins as well. It's a great app, and I just love it when we hear from moms that have saved their babies or saved their own life from using our app.
Oh my God, that's got to feel like the most amazing thing in the world when you guys hear from
Yeah,
people. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
We started out with 5 moms and like having uh, brochure counting with toddlers in our basements type of fulfillment operations. Now we have an office in Clive, and yeah, we have I think 16 people working for us now,
Wow.
and we're in 35 states. Um, um, some states were more invested in than others as far as
Mm-hmm.
how many resources we have, but um, every parent can find our information online, and we've got great educational things within the app as well. And we also like for parents to be that don't have access to technology. We have little bracelets, like the little kind of plastic bracelets that has
Mm-hmm.
a little counter thing on it so that you could
Oh,
do it if you
that's
were,
just the
Ah.
um,
best. That's
you know,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah. Very
Well, and I love the
cool.
idea that like it just started with a handful. This is what I'm saying, people. This is what we all
yeah,
have to remember. It started with a group of 5 moms in a basement doing the work by hand, wrangling kids, probably being like, yeah, have an eighth cookie so that I can focus on what I'm trying to do right now. Right. And now
yeah,
you guys have an app and you're in all these states. Like, I think it's a really encouraging story for people to hear, especially right now. Like, we keep
Yes.
talking about it, but like, I mean, that is how progress is made. And that is how any of these organizations get started. Like, it's just a group of like-minded people who are passionate and just keep showing up.
yep, that's exactly right. And I do think it's a powerful message that, sometimes what you find is people aren't talking about something that's really important that needs to be
Hmm.
talked about. Stillbirth, teacher abuse, all of those issues that like the more you can elevate a conversation and the more you can push your cause forward. And it doesn't take very many people.
Yeah, exactly.
Where could listeners find you if they wanted to connect with you? Either obviously with the nonprofit, they'd be able to look that up. But if there's someone is a citizen of the state, the beautiful state of Iowa, and would like to connect with Janet Petersen, how would you suggest they do so?
Yeah, the easiest way is to type in Iowa legislature and then click on, legislators, go to the Senate and scroll down and you'll find my email. And that's probably the best way to reach me.
Where do you find joy and hope these days, right? We've talked about a lot of heavy stuff. How does Janet refill? How does she fill her cup? Is it just playing pool? Is there any other things that you like to do to just find some joy in these weird, wacky times we're living in?
Well, I do like playing pool, and where do I find joy? I find joy in connecting with people. I really do, and looking for the little things. I think we have to find those nuggets of goodness every day. And I don't go to everything because I just can't. And and I can't go to everything and have a healthy family. So I try to navigate that by being accessible, but also having some boundaries in place.
Yeah, boundaries are important for us all,
Yeah.
right? It's a good
And
reminder.
I do think, you can't save the world, and we all just have to realize that. You find your one or two things that float your boat that you feel like you can invest in, do what you can do, and don't be so hard on yourself.
Oh, I think that's good advice for all of us at all times.
I started painting this year too. Just doing a little mini little painting, and it's not even good, but just trying to do something positive.
Yeah.
All art is good.
All art is good. There's no such thing as bad art.
Yeah,
no
I bet you it's beautiful. Yes.
Unless it's AI art, and then it's trash.
Yes.
Nice. Well, I think those are great ways to find joy. And I'm excited that you're doing art. You should send me a pic of one of your paintings.
Yes,
if you're
we'd love to see
I would
it.
love to see it.
All right. I will.
Yeah.
Well, this has been
send art to an artist.
That's right.
Yes.
It's a little intimidating.
We're talking politics to a politician.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what the hell we're talking about
over here,
so it's fine.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And this is, I think, the longest conversation that I've had with you. I've heard so much, of course, from Sarah, just wonderful things, and also like other people that we've talked to. I think you have just such a powerful and encouraging story. And I like what you said in the beginning of people maybe sometimes wanting to leave, Iowa or their home state. There's people talking about leaving the United States right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have toyed around with it too. But I think at the end of the day, we need people who are willing to stick around and like put in the work and the fight. And the fact that you've been doing it for as long as you have, despite the setbacks, despite the disheartening moments.
Thank you guys for having me on the show and for what you're doing to elevate the conversation. You two are incredible, and it's an honor to know you both.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. All right, dear listeners, this has been Janet Petersen. Thank you again for coming, and go forth and do great things.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Dude, Janet is the fucking best, dude.
Honestly.
She's great. There's a reason that I don't shut up about her all the time.
There's a reason, I think a lot of people don't shut up about her. Yeah.
She's so nice. And my friend Jolene and I met her in person for like a summit thing like a year or two ago about her like campaign that she was doing. And my friend Jolene was like, dude, she's just like is such a breath of fresh air and makes you realize that they're not all fucking monsters. Like there are actual good people that are involved. Yeah. And if there were more just good, decent people, how much better everything would be. But the good, decent people don't want to be in those rooms,
Yes, I feel better knowing that she is around and that she is in Iowa because Iowa needs some help. So I'm glad that she's still there. At any moment she could be like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not running for re-election. I'm done with y'all. But no, she's in it. Like she is locked in. She's dedicated. and she wants to help make the state a better place for everyone. I think that is just so admirable.
Yeah, she's kind of the best. I also wanted to be I should text her later. I'd be like, "Also, if you want to send a picture of yourself playing pool, that would be pretty cool."
I have so many questions about that.
Yeah,
Like,
does she like trick
play
shots?
by
We should have
herself?
asked questions. I think she said in our intro call that she plays with her husband,
Oh, okay. So they play. Oh, that's
which
the
is
cutest thing.
adorable. I know.
They play pool in the morning. Does she enter any competitions? If she plays every
I have
day,
no
she
idea.
must be good.
Why are you
Like,
asking
is she
me?
secretly?
Why are you asking me? She was just here.
Senator Petersen, write in. Let us know.
Yeah, no, I would be intrigued, like, yeah, my brain was like, can she do weird like trick shots where the ball jumps,
Yeah.
and
Right? I know. I had more questions and I was like, I don't know. Maybe for later. Maybe I'll ask her later if I ever see her in person.
yeah, we'll just have to have her on again sometime when she gets the statute of limitation for civil charges eliminated from the state of Iowa. We'll have her back on the podcast. How about that?
Yeah, she was delightful. I really liked her glasses too.
Yeah, she's
They're
good.
cool.
She's got great hair too.
Yeah, she does. All right, it's just me today because we still haven't really figured out how to properly end these interview episodes. So thank you for listening and do your best to, hold on, grow through what you go through. Bye. No, do you grow feet? Do you grow hair on the bottom of
You
your
don't
feet?
grow feet.
There is something in my foot. I don't know what it is, but there's something in there. Anyway, no.
What? You're just gonna casually say something's in your foot and move on? The foot?
There's something in my heel. I feel it when I'm like rolling my heel
Girl,
out.
go
I need to go.
to
Remember,
the
I have to go
doctor.
see a podiatrist or something.
Anywho. Also, I was on a Zoom call for work today, and my urge to go leave at the end was so strong. And I was like, I can't do this with anyone but Diana.
Leave! They'd be like, what's up with that girl?
I tried to explain it to somebody at work, and they were like, okay. I'm like, dude, it was really funny.